The book 15 War in Ukraine Modern explores the crucial turning points in a conflict that has had a global impact. These events, which range from the brutal Battle of Kyiv to the seismic initial Russian advance and capture, shed light on the complexity of the conflict. Western sanctions changed diplomatic environments, and the Battle of Mariupol highlighted the value of both strategy and human suffering. The Moskva cruiser's sinking made clear its maritime proportions. These incidents perfectly capture the complex nature of contemporary war, which combines geopolitics, conflict, and humanitarian issues. This story reveals the complex web of circumstances that have shaped the contemporary crisis in Ukraine. Let's get started. Battle of Kyiv. The Battle of Kyiv, a crucial turning point in the present conflict in Ukraine, is evidence of the tenacity of the Ukrainian forces in the face of a determined foe. This fight, fought in the center of the Ukrainian capital, altered the course of the conflict, heightened global attention, and left its stamp on history. The importance of Kyiv as a vital metropolitan hub and a representation of national identity increased as the fighting continued. The conflict pitted Ukrainian soldiers against well-equipped Russian units as the conclusion of rigorous urban warfare tactics. The Ukrainian military proved its might and tenacity by holding its own against a formidable foe on Ukrainian soil. The terrible truths of contemporary warfare were on display during the Battle of Kyiv. Civilians were caught in the crossfire as streets that were previously buzzing with activity turned into battlegrounds. The human cost of the fight was clearly visible, with broadcasts of images of death and suffering. The world watched in a mixture of terror and awe as the Ukrainian military bravely fought to preserve their city. This conflict had geopolitical repercussions that affected international relations in addition to being a military conflict. A potential turning point in the battle was signaling by the Ukrainian forces' ability to maintain their ground and fend off Russian attacks. It gave Ukrainian civilians and their supporters renewed vigor and hope for a potential turn in the tide of fate. Additionally, the Battle of Kyiv redoubled international attempts to end the conflict peacefully. Diplomatic discussions grew more urgent, and it became clearer than ever how important it was to stop the rising violence. Leaders all over the world were prompted to reconsider their positions and policies as a result of this event, which highlighted the delicate balance between military strategy and the search for diplomatic solutions. In hindsight, the Battle of Kyiv represents a nation's fortitude in the face of hardship. It serves as a reminder that conflict affects people's lives, societies, and broader global dynamics in ways that go beyond actual battlefields. The Battle of Kyiv, which demonstrated the complexity of warfare and the fortitude of those who fought it, is still a defining chapter as Ukraine continues its journey through this contemporary battle. Initial Russian advance and capture. The initial Russian offensive and subsequent Russian conquest of significant Ukrainian territories, signaling a fundamental change in the course of the contemporary war in Ukraine. As tensions rose, Russia immediately seized the opportunity to take advantage of the upheaval, carrying out a painstakingly planned advance that astounded both Ukraine and the international community. This incident showcased Russia's military prowess and geopolitical acumen. In order to overrun Ukrainian defenses, the Russian forces combined conventional and unorthodox tactics while utilizing their substantial resources and experience. They were able to conquer key locations, such as border areas and transportation centers, thanks to the quick deployment of troops and sophisticated equipment, giving Russia a major edge in terms of both territorial control and strategic posture. An intricate humanitarian situation was generated by the occupation of these areas. In pursuit of protection, displaced citizens abandoned their homes, adding to the huge refugee influx and worsening an already severe situation. Reports of civilian deaths and infrastructure destruction revealed the growing human toll of the conflict. Additionally, the initial Russian advance sparked a wave of fear and outrage around the world. As countries considered how to react effectively, diplomatic channels were humming with conversations. Because of the incident, there has been a pressing need to review the dynamics of regional security as the surrounding nations have grown concerned about Russia's aspirations for expansion. The initial Russian advance and capture highlighted the necessity for international procedures to prevent similar events and highlighted the vulnerability of countries to unexpected conflict escalation. The aftermath of the incident challenged existing international conventions and emphasized the value of collective security systems far beyond the immediate theater of combat. In the end, the first Russian push and capture not only laid the groundwork for a protracted struggle, but also exposed the difficulties and repercussions of contemporary warfare in a globalized environment. Western sanctions. The imposition of Western sanctions, which added a new level of diplomatic pressure and economic warfare, was one of the pivotal stages in the current Ukrainian war. Western nations quickly reacted by using economic instruments to restrain Russia's expansionist aspirations as its military incursions increased and its annexation of Crimea shocked the international community. The penalties were the result of a coordinated campaign involving many industries, including finance, energy, and defense. The West sought to economically isolate Russia and pressure it to alter its behavior by focusing on significant persons, organizations, and sectors that were directly linked to the acts of the Russian government. These actions hampered Russian entities' access to the global banking system, damaged commercial relations, and frozen assets. Western sanctions had a significant impact on the conflict. They put financial pressure on Russia's resources and limited its capacity to fully support the Ukrainian combat effort. The sanctions damaged Russia's currency, restricted access to technological developments, and restricted international investment. The Russian government was forced to commit large resources to reducing the effects of the sanctions as a result of the internal difficulties caused by this economic strain. Additionally, the sanctions implementation showed the world's support for Ukraine. It made it abundantly evident that everyone in the world opposed Russia's invasion of Ukraine's sovereignty. The sanctions raised Ukraine's spirits and gave it the appearance that it was being attacked rather than being a lone hotspot. Sanctions had an impact, but they weren't without drawbacks. Some contend that although they caused Russia economic suffering, they also furthered its isolation and defiance, potentially strengthening its will to carry on the struggle. The sanctions have had unanticipated knock-on consequences for other Russian-related sectors and businesses. Battle of Mariupol. The Battle of Mariupol, which captured the complexity and tragic effects of the battle, turned out to be a crucial turning point in the contemporary war in Ukraine. The strategic significance of this coastal city as a major port and industrial center highlighted its role in the overall dynamics of the conflict. As the conflict progressed, it became evident that both sides valued Mariupol's control. Russian-backed rebels trying to seize the city clashed vehemently with Ukrainian forces who were desperate to protect their area. With civilians caught in a crossfire and suffering unimaginable agony as their lives and livelihoods were interrupted, the battle's urban environment made the already dire circumstances worse. The conflict, which featured asymmetrical tactics and cutting-edge weapons clashing in heavily populated areas, demonstrated the complexity of contemporary warfare. Beyond the immediate military goals, the battle's aftereffects included a landscape littered with rubble, displaced families, and crumbling infrastructure. The Battle of Mariupol increased worries about humanitarian problems in combat zones on a global scale. There have been calls for quick diplomatic action due to the terrible loss of human lives and the disruption of essential services. The conflict stalemate also brought to light the difficulty of respecting international humanitarian law when hostilities are developing quickly. The Battle of Mariupol, one of the war's pivotal moments, serves as a sobering reminder of the human cost of war and the necessity of pursuing peaceful solutions. It underlines the need for international cooperation to address the complexities of modern conflicts, ensuring that civilian populations are shielded from harm and that negotiations, rather than violence, guide the course of history. Moskva cruiser sinking. The sinking of the Moskva cruiser is a somber reminder of the conflict's widespread effects among the turbulent accounts of the modern war in Ukraine. This naval encounter was a turning point, revealing a new level of intricacy and impact on the dynamics of the region. The Moskva cruiser, a powerful ship in the Russian Navy, symbolized and projected Moscow's maritime power. But in a risky maneuver, Ukrainian forces managed to launch a successful attack against this nautical landmark, demonstrating the frailty of Russia's naval forces. This bold move not only demonstrated the tactical skill of the Ukrainians, but also the hidden potential of a beleaguered country resolute in defending its sovereignty. Beyond its immediate military ramifications, the Moskva cruiser sinking had far-reaching geopolitical repercussions. It reignited debates over control of vital waterways and marine access, and raised concerns about Russia's capacity to project naval force. As important players adjusted their views in response to this maritime shift, the episode brought attention to the interconnectivity of global security. The occasion highlighted the need for communication and cooperation, and struck a chord with people who support diplomatic solutions. The loss of such a significant naval weapon brought to light the tragic effects of war, and sparked demands for an end to hostilities to avert more casualties and destruction. The Moskva cruiser's drowning provided a harsh reminder of the complexity of contemporary warfare as its reverberations reached distant coastlines. It demonstrated how the strategic domain encompasses the huge expanses of oceans and seas in addition to the land. The symbolic and strategic effects of this participation made people aware of the wider ramifications of conflict and prompted world leaders to think about other conflict resolution options. In hindsight, the loss of the Moskva cruiser is still a tragic episode in the history of the conflict in Ukraine. It perfectly captures the daring, inventiveness, and tenacious spirit of a country under pressure. It invites us to consider the frailty of peace and the necessity of finding common ground amid the storms, while exposing the flaws of armed force. The impact of these 15 pivotal moments echoes on as the chapters of Ukraine's contemporary war continue to develop. Their tales of bravery, cunning, and repercussions make up a tapestry of the complex story of the battle. These incidents, seen through the prism of history, serve as sobering reminders of the precarious nature of peace and the need for diplomacy. We want to create a society where conflicts are resolved without suffering, where compassion triumphs over antagonism, and where the lessons of the past lead us to a future of enduring harmony by acknowledging their effect. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends.